Have you ever sat in a meeting full of brilliant ideas, but said nothing? Have you ever delivered a project so polished, so perfect, and yet, somewhere inside, you still felt like it wasn't enough, like you were still waiting for someone to look at you and say, "I'm proud of you," not because you did something impressive, but just because you exist? If that question echoes inside of you, this video isn't just something to watch, it's something to feel, because today, we're diving into a wound that doesn't bleed, but quietly shapes everything: your ambition, your anxiety, your relationships, your silence. It's the invisible hunger for a father's approval, and how it keeps brilliant women small, even when they've outgrown the cage. And most importantly, how you can finally break free. So let's go back to the beginning, not with blame, but with understanding. For many women, the father is the first mirror, not of beauty, not of intellect, but of worthiness. He's the first man who tells her, through words or silence, whether she deserves to take up space in the world. And when that mirror is cracked, when he's emotionally unavailable, critical, dismissive, or simply absent, it doesn't just hurt, it rewires her. Suddenly, she doesn't just want to succeed, she needs to. She doesn't just want to be seen, she aches for it. Every gold star, every promotion, every compliment becomes a substitute for something deeper, the validation that was never given freely. That's how the father wound disguises itself. It looks like ambition, like perfectionism, like being a good girl. But underneath, it's just a desperate prayer. Do you see me now, Dad? Am I finally enough? And here's the twist. She may never consciously think of her father. In fact, she might believe she's over it. But trauma doesn't live in logic. It lives in patterns. That's why she overworks. That's why she hesitates before speaking. That's why she secretly panics when her boss looks disappointed or someone critiques her work. She's not just reacting to the moment. She's re-experiencing the silence of her childhood. Imagine this. You're in a meeting. Everyone's talking. You have a great idea, truly. But as you start to speak, your throat closes. Something whispers, "Don't mess it up. Don't say anything stupid. Make sure it's perfect." That voice, it's not just anxiety. It's the echo of a little girl who once tried to impress a man, who didn't know how to love her properly. And here's the truth that stings. When a girl grows up seeking the approval of a father who never truly saw her, she often becomes a woman who seeks it from the world, over and over and over again. She chooses partners who make her prove her worth. She works herself into exhaustion for bosses who don't acknowledge her. She second-guesses herself because her inner compass was never fully calibrated by the masculine energy that was supposed to protect, guide, and affirm her. But wait, what if your father wasn't cruel? What if he was just quiet, or tired, or doing his best but emotionally closed off? That's the most confusing part, because your mind says, "He didn't hit me. He provided, he wasn't bad." But your body remembers the absence. Your soul still holds the hunger. You see, the wound doesn't need trauma with a capital T, it just needs moments. Enough of them stacked together, where you felt like your emotions were too much, your needs were inconvenient, or your voice was never truly heard. And those moments, they don't stay in the past. They show up in every boardroom, brainstorming session, job interview, and performance review. That's why this isn't just about childhood, this is about power, your power. Because here's the radical shift. The wound is not your fault, but the healing is your responsibility. So how do we begin to heal? First, we name it. That feeling of never being good enough. That's not your truth. That's a response to an unmet need. A need that was valid, but unanswered. And once you name it, you loosen its grip. Second, we notice the pattern. When do you shrink? When do you overextend yourself to earn praise? When do you panic about being seen as difficult or arrogant? These aren't random behaviors. They're survival strategies that once protected you, but now, they keep you from expanding. Third, we create a new voice, a new inner father. One who says what you needed to hear all along. You're doing just fine. You don't have to prove yourself. You're allowed to be bold and soft, loud and sensitive, brilliant and messy. And here's the hardest part. You have to say these things even when no one else does, especially then, because that's how you become your own source of validation. That's how you stop performing and start embodying your true self. Let me be clear, this doesn't mean you stop achieving. It means your achievement is no longer driven by a hunger for approval. It's an expression of wholeness. Can you imagine that? Working not to be loved, but because you already are. That's where your freedom begins. And if you're thinking, but I've always been this way, let me offer you this. You weren't born seeking approval. You learned to chase it when love became conditional. You can unlearn it. You can create new conditions. You can stop running. And here's a visual that might help. Picture yourself sitting at a long table. Around it are all the people you once tried to impress: your father, teachers, bosses, partners. You're presenting your ideas, your dreams, your heart. And for once, you're not watching their faces. You're watching your own reflection in the glass. You're nodding. You're saying, "This is enough. I am enough." And suddenly, it is . This is how the cycle breaks. But let's go even deeper, because this wound isn't just psychological, it's energetic. In Jungian terms, the father represents the animus, the internal masculine force that gives us direction, clarity, and action. When the father wound remains unhealed, the animus becomes distorted. You either overdo, pushing yourself relentlessly, or underdo, avoiding risks, hiding your light. Healing the father wound means healing the animus within. It means embodying masculine energy in its healthy form: presence, structure, calm authority. And when that happens, your inner and outer worlds align. You stop attracting chaos. You stop fearing confrontation. You stop performing for scraps of praise. You start choosing peace over perfection, authenticity over approval, purpose over performance. And here's a final truth no one tells you. You don't need your father's permission to be free. You never did. You were always worthy. His silence couldn't change that. His absence couldn't erase that. His inability to love you the way you needed doesn't define your capacity to love yourself now. You get to reparent yourself. You get to build a new legacy, one where your worth isn't debated, it's declared. And maybe today is the day you stop chasing the man who never clapped for you. Maybe today you become the one who does . To the little girl who once waited quietly for love, to the woman who now leads, creates, and dreams in her own name. This is your liberation. This is your voice. This is your return to yourself. But here's something no one tells you in the self-help books. Healing the father wound is not a one-time event. It's not a journal entry. It's not a podcast you listen to and suddenly feel whole. It's a slow, layered process. It happens in the quiet moments when you stop mid-email and ask, "Am I writing this to be seen, or because I believe in what I'm saying?" It happens when you speak up in a meeting, even though your voice shakes. It happens when you start to honor your rhythm instead of chasing recognition. One of the most common signs that the father wound is still alive in you is this: you don't trust your own voice. Not fully, not when it matters. You over-prepare, overthink, You walk out of a conversation replaying every word. You feel like you need a permission slip to exist. And that's not because you're insecure. That's because you were taught, directly or indirectly, that your presence needed to be justified, that being liked was safer than being real, that making others proud was more important than making yourself proud. So what happens when we stop chasing the father archetype outside of us and begin to cultivate it within? We begin to speak, not to impress, but to express. We begin to create, not to prove, but to share. We begin to lead, not to dominate, but to illuminate. This is where true transformation begins, when you shift from seeking approval to embodying authority. And let's talk about that word, authority. For many women, it carries tension, because authority has often come with punishment, pressure, or distance, especially when the father figure was emotionally cold or intimidating. So, unconsciously, many women disown their own authority. They defer. They wait for someone to tell them what's next. They ask for permission even when they already know the answer. But what if your authority could be kind, grounded, compassionate? What if reclaiming your voice didn't mean becoming hard, but becoming whole? Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The father wound is one of the deepest unconscious forces in the psyche. Left unhealed, it becomes your fate, the job you never apply for, the boundary you never set, the partner you settle for, the dream you keep postponing. But when you name it, feel it, and heal it, you change the script. You interrupt the story. You become the author. So let's go back for a moment, not to dwell, but to witness. Close your eyes. If you feel safe, picture your younger self. Maybe she's 6, or 11, or 16. She's waiting, maybe in her room, maybe on the sidelines, maybe in her heart, waiting for a nod, a word, a gesture, waiting for someone to say, "You did good, you're amazing, you make me proud," but no one comes, or maybe someone does, but it never lands. The words feel distant, conditional, hollow, and so she learns to keep trying, keep performing, keep perfecting. Now picture yourself as you are now, wiser, deeper, softer. Walk up to her, look her in the eyes, kneel down, and say what she's needed to hear. All this time, you don't have to earn it anymore. You are enough, even in stillness. You are allowed to take up space, to be seen, to be loved, without performing. And just like that, you become the voice that breaks the cycle. Let's take it into the real world, because healing isn't just inner work, it's action, too. Here are 5 small but powerful practices to help you break free from the approval loop. 1. The 70% rule. Instead of obsessing over perfection, commit to sharing your work when it feels 70% ready. This disrupts the perfectionism rooted in needing approval. Progress over perfection is a radical act of healing. 2. Self-validation rituals. Every time you complete something, no matter how small, pause and say out loud, "That was good, I'm proud of that." It might feel silly at first, but over time, it rewires your brain to associate worthiness with presence, not praise. 3. The silent mentor letter. Write a letter to your inner father, not the real man, but the inner archetype you wish you had. Write what he would say to you when you doubt yourself. Read it when your inner child starts to panic. 4. Choose visibility on purpose. Once a week, do something that makes you feel seen. Post your opinion. Raise your hand. Pitch your idea, not to prove your worth, but to train your nervous system to feel safe while being visible. 5. Inner dialogue check-ins. When you hear that voice saying, "You're not ready," or "Don't say that," pause and ask, whose voice is this? Is it your father's, a teacher, a past boss? Then ask, is it still true? This question is your key to freedom, and here's the beautiful irony. Once you stop chasing validation, you start to receive it, not because you've earned it, but because you've become magnetic. There is something unshakable about a woman who no longer seeks to be chosen, because she has already chosen herself. Now, let's address a common question. Do I need to confront my actual father to heal? The answer is no. Healing is not about confrontation, it's about liberation. Your healing does not depend on someone else's apology. You don't need him to say the words he never could. You need you to say the words you always needed to hear. And if he's still in your life, you may one day choose to speak your truth, or not. Both are valid. But whether you speak it out loud or not, the most powerful reconciliation happens within, because healing the father wound isn't about changing him. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you abandoned while waiting for his love. So here's the final truth I want you to carry. You are not broken. You were never broken. You simply built your strength in the dark. You learned to shine without applause. You taught yourself how to stand, even when no one showed you how. And now, you are no longer the girl waiting by the door. You are the woman walking through it, with her head high and her heart intact. And now, as we come to the end of this journey, I want to remind you, you did not find this video by accident. You were guided here, maybe by your own quiet ache, maybe by a part of you that's tired of shrinking, tired of asking for permission, tired of earning what should have been freely given. There's a reason this wound lives so quietly in the hearts of so many powerful women, because it's not obvious, it's not loud, it's subtle, polished, socially praised. It hides behind excellence and high standards, behind "I just want to do a good job and I don't want to be a burden." But when you peel back the layers, there's often a child who just wanted to be told, "You're doing enough, you don't have to try so hard." And that child, she's still inside of you, not broken, not needy, but waiting for you. You see, healing the father wound doesn't mean rejecting everything that shaped you. It means reintegrating your gifts with your wholeness. It means saying, "Yes, I am capable, and I am enough, even when I'm resting, even when I'm unsure, even when I'm not impressive to anyone but myself." Let's go even deeper for a moment. In Jungian psychology, we often speak of the heroine's journey. It's different from the masculine hero's journey. The heroine doesn't slay dragons outside. She descends inward, into her shadows, into her forgotten wounds, into the caves of her childhood, where silence taught her how to disappear. And then, she rises. Not because someone saved her, but because she remembered her own name. You're not healing to become someone new. You're healing to return to who you were before the world told you to be small. So the next time you feel that familiar tightening in your chest before speaking, the next time you second-guess an idea, a dream, a boundary, pause, place your hand over your heart, and say, I do not need to be perfect to be loved. I do not need to be quiet to be safe. I do not need to be chosen to be worthy. This is how the cycle ends. This is how daughters become women, how women become leaders, how leaders become healers. Because when a woman heals the father wound, she doesn't just free herself. She frees every daughter who comes after her. She stops passing down silence. She stops teaching fear. She becomes the source of love, safety, and truth within herself. And that is something no title, no salary, no man, and no institution can ever give you, because it was yours all along. So if no one ever told you, let me say it now, from soul to soul, you are enough. You always were, even when he didn't see you, even when you had to earn it, even when the applause never came. You were never invisible. You just forgot how bright you really are. Now, you remember. And now, you rise. If this message touched something in you, don't leave quietly. Comment below. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And if you're on this healing journey, you're not alone. This channel is for you. Hit subscribe if your soul whispered, yes, that's me. Because more videos like this are coming. Not for likes, not for noise, but for the women who are finally ready to stop performing and start becoming.